All right, and welcome. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever sent an email to someone that you really look up to, only to find that they did not reply to you? Have you ever tried to reach someone and you didn't even receive a response? Or even worse, did you not know how to reach out to someone, so you didn't even try to reach someone that could potentially be an influence or a mentor to you? If you had any of these problems, then this episode is for you, because we will discuss how can you reach someone via email. And good morning, Eric. How are you?
Good morning, Emil. I'm very well, thank you. I'm excited about this.
All right. And if you're checking in for the first time, my name is Emil, and I'm the host of the Becoming Great podcast. And Eric, you are the founder of Great.com.
That's correct. And we're doing this podcast to learn things together and explore everything about great and life in general.
That's right. Thank you for chipping in. I have a terrible memory and I forget things. So it's a good thing to be two brains when recording a podcast, we have realized.
Yeah, two brains is definitely better than one.
Now, I had a tricky, challenging situation this weekend because I was going out with some friends and I'm in a bar. It's kind of loud in the bar, and over at the bar desk, 10 meters away from me, I see a beautiful woman. Like, she's wearing a red dress. She's looking really hot. And I can tell that the way she carries herself, I can tell that she knows that she has high value. So obviously I want to do a great impression. So, I'm nervous, shaking it off a bit. So I'm walking over and I'm smoothly sitting down next to her. And I introduce myself. Hi, my name is Emil. And then I start to talk about myself. And I keep talking about myself for quite some time. I talk some more. And then I ask her a couple of favors. Yeah. And then she left. And I don't know what I did wrong. What do you think what could have I done differently? I don't understand.
Well, to explain what Emil is going at here, we're talking about emails, and he's describing a lot of scenarios where I've been in, where I've been sending emails to people and not getting replies. And one thing that I've done a lot is say, hi, Emil. And then I start telling them about why I'm so important, what I've done and this and that and this and that. And then I've asked them for lunch or maybe for a job and for whatever. And I've realized that this is a very common way that I've been writing emails. And lately I've been getting emails a lot like this. And they're not very fun replying to. And when Emil explains it in the way as picking up a woman in the bar, it makes complete sense that it's not really a good approach to come up, say hi, talk about yourself for 5 minutes, and then ask for something. We would simply never do that.
So just to clarify why we're doing this episode now, because you said you have been writing a lot of emails and you are trying to reach other people. But now the situation has switched a bit from you, because now all of a sudden, instead of you being the guy walking up to the woman in the bar, in this metaphor, I totally didn't do that, did I? So instead of being the guy walking up to the woman, now you are sort of the woman in this situation. So what has changed for you? How come the roles are switched?
Yes, what's been very interesting in the past couple of years, I've become the woman in the bar, in the sense that a lot of people reach out to me asking to get a job, asking for me to be some kind of a mentor, or asking for a lunch or whatever. And I'm ending up going to a lot of lunches and stuff, and I've ended up saying no to tons of things. And it's been interesting to watch how my mind works with this and who I end up going to lunch with. Because the most common emails are the ones that we were just referring to. People that reach out and explain a lot about themselves, what they are working with, their projects, whatever it is, ask very few questions about me or talk very little about me, and then ends up asking to go to lunch or whatever. And at first it just takes me 5 minutes to read the email. And once I'm done, I'm not engaged in any way. I have no buy-in in this. So I usually end up saying no because I have limited space and limited time in my schedule, and I don't even have the opportunity of engaging everyone. And then I can see the situations where I end up going to these lunches. And that's usually when someone sends a short, playful email and asking about myself and talking about things that I'm interested in, and not really asking for a favor or a lunch or anything early on in an email. So we actually send a couple of emails back and forth, similar like it would be in a bar. If I sit down and I start asking her questions and we would pass the ball back and forth for an hour or so, maybe then I could ask her for a lunch, dinner, date, whatever the next day. But I would never go up and do that in the first 5 minutes. It's been very interesting then to see how I'm interacting with these emails that I get from the other side and what I can learn from my own behavior in this, and what I'm guessing that my behavior is similar to how other people would work in these situations as well.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So just to summarize what you're saying that before you experienced what it's like to be the woman, and to clarify, you've been on quite a few big podcasts in Sweden, and thanks to that, people have been writing you more email, and that's over the last 2 years or so, maybe, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So you experienced that you as the woman, people are walking up, they are introducing themselves, telling a long story that is about themselves, and then asks for a favor. And that it's too much to ask from someone in the beginning. Instead, you would just like someone to come up and say, oh, just one comment, something playful, and then ask for maybe 20 seconds of her time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, an equivalent here, a great way of getting me engaged in an email then would be, hi, Eric, I listened to you here and here. You said these and these things that I really got inspired by, or that changed my life somehow, or this and that. And then asking some small question, maybe what other podcasters are you gonna do, or could you please give me a short advice on this thing, or something small, which would be the equivalent of going up to someone in a bar saying, hey, you caught my attention because of the red dress that you're wearing, or the way you're holding yourself up.
Yeah.
It's like, does the dress have a story, or whatever, getting them to talk about themselves and being engaged.
Ask for a tiny commitment. Yeah. Exactly.
The tiny commitment of explain the story of the dress or the earrings or whatever it might be.
I liked something you said when you were counting something you just said is that you inspired me to make this change in my life. I think that would at least make me, if I was the woman, that would make me interesting instead in wanting to share more. If I can see that, oh, something I did caused them to change their life for the better.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of one email that I got that is actually probably the email that have given me the most emotions and most feelings about an email that I've gotten. And I got that from a teenage guy in Sweden. He's like 18 years old maybe. And he had seen me on a stage like a year earlier. And he came up to me after the stage and after the speech, and he said, but you're wearing so normal clothes. You're rich, but you don't have fancy clothes. And it didn't strike me as a big thing at the time. And we kept talking a little bit, and it wasn't more with that. And then I got an email from him a couple of months ago. And that was actually a quite long email. But he spoke about how the fact that I wasn't wearing expensive clothes has impacted him in his life. Mm. So that before I always bought these clothes, I wanted people to see me for my brand labels. I was living in a quite shitty area. So I did things to get the money to buy the clothes I couldn't afford just because I wanted to be accepted. Mm. And after hearing you speak and seeing you, I want people to see me for me. So I don't actually buy these clothes anymore. I've actually given some of them away. And just the other week, I went and bought a pair of sunglasses for 150 euros. And then after I took them home, I realized I don't want these. So I returned them.
Mm.
And just that story became so powerful to me because I had done something that had impacted him, and he was so specific in what way it impacted him, and he was so grateful for that.
And how did that make you feel? How would that cause you to act differently in the future?
I mean, it showed me value in what I'm saying and what I'm doing in a way that I could ever have foreseen.
Yeah.
I could never imagine that me on a stage would impact a teenage man to not buy expensive clothes or to change his values and perspectives of what's important to him.
Yeah.
That just him putting a light on the value in what I did made me feel so appreciated and so valuable, and it made me want to get up on stages, talk more, do more things, knowing that it could have a positive impact on people.
Yeah. It's a very deep way of validating someone. It's actually great leadership from that guy, because I mean he's making you grow as a leader in that email and in that comment.
Yeah, and I think that's such a powerful, that's once again just me learning about how I interact with reading an email and giving me the opportunity to see what it is on the other end.
Yeah.
So if you are sending someone an email and you can move them like this,
yeah,
move them in a way so they're actually telling this story in a podcast or somewhere else, that means that you really reached out. You've really done the person you want to send an email to. You've done them a huge favor or something really, really nice for them.
Yeah.
Where that they will most definitely respond and most definitely engage with you, and everyone's a winner.
Yeah. He's really giving you value there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would probably be hard to find a similar situation with a woman in a bar, but if you're emailing someone or doing something and you have a very good reason for reaching out, then that's a great approach to it.
So when people do reach out, what do they usually want? What are they usually asking for in the email?
So the most common things are they want a lunch or a meeting. They want me to look at an investment opportunity to invest in their companies or their business ideas. They want a mentorship or a job opportunity. These are by far the most common things.
Mm. And how many of these do you say yes to or more move forward with? And then what is kind of the difference, if there is a difference in the way they write their email?
So I say no to pretty much everything. And I do that because I have very limited time. And the ones so I reply to all emails. At least I try. I think I've replied to all emails I've gotten. And the ones that manage to engage me, we might end up sending 5 or 10 emails back and forward. And suddenly they might ask me for a lunch, or maybe I'm getting engaged in what they're actually talking about because they've managed to catch my attention. But I need to get to know the personality a bit. I need to feel that they care about me. I need to feel that, okay, they are doing this to add value to my life.
Yeah.
Like this guy reaching out and telling me something that adds me value. They're not just coming to me asking me to give them value.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key thing in here where I've failed so many times where I've been writing emails to people. I've only been talking about myself and asking them for something, but haven't looked for how is this valuable to email or whoever I'm sending the message to.
Yeah. So if we go back to the metaphor again, that would be like a lot of people, I guess now, I have done it myself, walk up to the woman because, well, I can only speak for myself. I walk up to the woman and I want something out of her. And it's so transparent and it's so obvious.
Yeah.
So instead, if I say, okay, whatever happens for me, that doesn't matter. At least I can make sure I want her to have a good time here or give her value somehow in this conversation.
Yeah, I think that's a huge, huge difference where regardless if you want to meet the love of your life in a bar or find a mentor over an email, I think it's the same way of thinking. And in both scenarios, I've definitely been guilty of messing up the priorities there and just going up to someone because I want something, not because I think that I can give something or enhance their life somehow.
I got curious now, and we haven't talked about this, but I'm curious if you were looking for a mentor. Let's say you saw a person that you really look up to, and now you're gonna be the guy now, and you're gonna reach out to this person via email, and what you want is a mentorship down the line. How would you even begin that?
Okay, so I've done this, and I've both failed and succeeded in various ways. So if I were to do it today, and I would reach out to, let's say, Tim Ferris, who's got this huge podcast, who I really look up to and that I've gotten a lot of valuable advice from. Then I would start by doing research on Tim. First finding out thinking about what had he done that has changed my life somehow. So a small thing that comes to mind right now is that he's talking about this app for Chrome that's called the Facebook Newsfeed Eradicator, which blocks your Facebook feed. So you can't waste time on that. And I used to be addicted to the Facebook feed. And just by installing that little app, that completely changed my behavior online. So that's one thing I could tell him, like, hey, Tim, I just wanted to reach out and thank you for recommending this app. It has saved me so much time to not be addicted to Facebook anymore. And I would end that email then with either ask him if I could do something for him, if I know of something he might need. Maybe he's spoken about something else in another podcast. Maybe he says that he wants to write a book or whatever. And like, I could just say, I would be happy to read and give it my comments, something like that. Or I would ask for something. If I can't come up with something where I can add value, I would ask him something very small, like, what other are your favorite tips for saving time online? And I wouldn't write anything more than that. I would just highlight what he did to me and how it made me feel and how it changed my life, and ask something very small to get him to engage. And
is it possible to offer too much? Let's say I would work free for you for a year. Like, would that be too much?
What I've sensed, I've been getting those kind of offers as well. And the tricky thing with that is that it's, as you say, you're offering too much. It's not really balanced. If you worked for free for me for a year, I would feel obligated to give you something. But if you just read a little article and gave me your feedback on it, I would not feel obligated.
All right. So it's obvious there's an agenda behind such an offer.
There's a hook in that. So yeah. If I just offer myself to read an article, that could be just to thank him for telling me about this newsfeed eradicator.
Yeah.
But if I offer to work for him for a year, then I'm basically saying, can you be my mentor and I'll pick up your dry cleaning?
Yeah.
It's kind of the difference there. And to be honest, it's also someone offering to work for free. It sounds like a very nice thing to give, but it takes a lot of work to keep someone occupied. It's basically like saying, can I be your intern and you're studying in school? I mean, I'm sure you had internships in school when you were in a restaurant or wherever, and it still takes a lot of time for the manager or for the owner to keep you occupied.
Yeah.
And you're 14 years old, so you're probably not very good at what you're doing. So that's the difference. Yeah, you can definitely offer too much. Offer something small. And the goal is just to get them to reply. The goal is not to get a mentorship or to get a job at that stage. It's just get them to answer, which is probably really hard with a guy like Tim Ferris, who probably gets at least 1,000 emails a day.
Yeah.
So who would you reach out to if you're trying to do this? Maybe Tim Ferris is way too high. How do you think that you should think about where to reach?
So if Tim Ferris is too high, maybe start to look, is there someone I look up to that would know Tim Ferris? If Tim Ferris is the one I would like to reach, and start there.
That's a good approach.
Maybe it's too big of a jump.
Yeah. I think the key, one of the key, regardless how perfect your email is, if you're sending it to someone who doesn't read their emails because they get too many emails, then it's probably not a good thing. So I've actually sent emails to Tim Ferris using this strategy, and it didn't work. I got hold of his assistant, and I've been sending back and forth to his assistant, but I've never gotten past her.
Yeah.
So it's not bulletproof in any way, but I've used similar things, sending emails to people that I admire but are closer to where I am. So I did this with Kjell Hager, which is this Swedish coach. So he's like a Swedish version of Tony Robbins in a sense, and probably gets 1% of the emails that Tony gets. But I really look up to him, and I've been listening to his radio show in Sweden, the Sommarprat that he has done. I don't know how many times, and it's just so good. And it's the same thing there. Then I told him he's speaking a lot about how to interact with your emotions and how all emotions are good. And I used to think of emotions as weakness, and he was a part in changing that. So I told him about those things. And him, I've actually had lunch and dinner with many times after that.
Do you think emails... Oh, yeah, you have. Yeah. So that came from emails?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. Well, so do you think email is a good way to reach someone, or do you think there is an even better approach?
I think compared to the level of energy you need to put into an email to send to someone, it's a very low risky game. The worst thing that can happen is basically they don't answer, and you put in probably at max 1 hour into that email, and it's not even remotely as scary as picking up the phone.
Yeah.
I think that picking up the phone makes it more likely that you actually manage to reach the person, but you're also making a stronger claim on their time, which might not be so appreciated. So sometimes I've been getting calls from people who've heard me speak somewhere, and it ended up with me always answering their questions and giving them kind of what it is that they're looking for. But afterwards, I feel used. So I feel like they stole this from me. They cornered me. I couldn't, because I answered the phone if it's ringing, and then they say, "Oh, hey, this is Carl. I've heard your podcast. I just want to ask you a few questions." And I can't just hang up there, even if I might want to, even if I'm in a bad spot or whatever. So it's a better way in the ways that you might get answers to your questions, but I personally don't like when people are calling me. Yeah. That's just my experience.
Carl would have to be very charming then for that to work.
Yeah.
And make you feel really good on the phone. Maybe if you are, that could be a good approach.
Yeah, I mean, he could probably do the same thing there. He's not asking for anything. So Carl would call me and he would tell me about something I did and how it changed my life, his life or his day-to-day, and end up by saying, this was all I wanted. Thank you so much for your time. Is it okay if I send you an email?
Yeah.
And maybe do it that way. Or is it okay if I call you again sometime when you have more time? Or something similar.
Well, you need to feel the awareness that he's not going to take up all of your time.
Yeah.
Be pesky. Yeah.
Yeah. So a common thing is someone calling, asking for a few minutes, end up talking for 20 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, I was not a part of this game. And I feel that I have two options: either be polite and keep talking, or feel that I have to kind of reject someone, and that's never a nice place to be in either, because it's tricky to turn someone down, and I might not have the time or be in a place where I want to talk.
Yeah, you feel used and tricked. Like if they did that the first time to you, you can assume that they're gonna want more than they tell you in the future.
Exactly. So I would, if I wanted to reach someone, badly, and let's say I can't get hold of that person via email, I would start trying to find ways to bring them value and get them to see me then. So let's say Tim Ferris again then. I really want to reach him. I would start looking at whatever he's doing on social media, and every time I get, I'll give him very positive feedback on the things that he's sharing. Wow, this and this tip was so good. And do the same thing, kind of sending the same email over and over, but in comment feeds and sharing his material and doing all of these things where I'm constantly giving him value, and hopefully he will at some point answer a comment or do something to start the interaction there. Because for sure he's reading, maybe not all comments and all things he gets, but he's reading enough of it. So if you're adding enough of value, enough of times, he will start seeing what you're doing, and hopefully he will appreciate it. And you get a chance to prove yourself.
Yeah, and I think one important thing to realize is that someone like you, just like the woman in the bar, she wants men to approach her, maybe, but she might want men to approach her. And you probably want people to reach out to you, but you don't and you want to help people. You want to give value. You want to be nice. You want to help out. You want to provide a good time for people. But you don't have time to answer to everyone. So you sort of have to choose the one where that would be a good time for you and where you feel like these are the ones that have the most value.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm answering tons of emails, but if I engaged in long conversations with all of them, I wouldn't have time to eat.
Yeah.
So I think it's valuable, and I really want to help.
Yeah, a friend of mine told me a story how he reached out to another Swedish inspirer. I'm not going to say his name. It was similar to Kjell Hager. Just reached out in an email, and he said, well, I'm doing this public speaking and doing this and that. And he didn't expect even a reply. But this influencer was very, very helpful to him. And he said, you know what? Every time I'm on a train somewhere, because I go around and do public speeches all around Sweden. Every time I'm on a train, I'm giving my time to younger people that want to learn. Wow. So he gave away a free call, and he did that a couple of times to him, just trying to help him become better at influencing. And you know, I think the main thing there was my friend's mind was blown that, wow, this guy, he's a huge inspirer. He actually wanted to take his time to help me just to be nice.
Yeah.
And so you never know. You never know.
And I can imagine that a lot of people are like that. I've been surprised of how helpful people that I've reached out to has been. And now being on the other end of it, I can really see it's a huge compliment that someone reaches out and wants my opinion on something. It says to me that, hey, I value your opinion, and it's a huge compliment. Yeah. So if it's done well, I'm so happy to help in those scenarios.
Yeah, and I think that's a key concept. I think I said that should be an error quote before. I think you said something like, asking someone for help is a compliment to that person.
Yes.
Or I'm probably misquoting you now. What did you say? Because it's a good key concept.
Yeah, I've said that asking someone for help is paying someone a compliment.
Yeah.
And especially if you're asking for specific help and you're tying it into to something that you really admire in that person. So I can see it in how I've been interacting now with people when I need help with recruitment. So I've reached out to 4 or 5 different people I know, and I've told them, like, I'm so impressed with how you've done this or that, and I really admire this. Can I have an hour of your time, because I think that you know a lot more than I do. After one of these calls that I had, the guy I had the call with, he said, like, thank you for this. I feel very good for being able to help you. It's the same thing, that it's a value it's a value transition in a sense, where the value if I'm helping someone, the value I get is that I feel valued, I feel appreciated, I feel smart, I feel good about myself. And the value the other person gets is hopefully perspectives and things that can help them on the way.
You and I, we have spent quite a bit of time on how to technically write an email. Like, how can you use alliterations and opening phrases and stuff like that. Technical stuff. But to me, none of that is nearly as important as the mindset that the person sending the email is coming from. Is the person giving value? Have the person actually watched your material and learned from it and made that change them? Are they implementing? If you can convey those kind of things, I think that sense, it shows in the email that this is the type of person that you want to be involved with. And I think that mindset.
Yeah, I think if you have the mindset, that's half the battle is won there.
Yeah.
And then sure, there are tons of technical things. We got this big document with various tools that we're using, but the mindset is half the battle for sure.
Mm. Is there something more you want to add to this concept before we summarize what we learned today, to make this episode a little bit shorter maybe?
Yeah, I think just encouraging people to actually send emails to the ones you think can help them. Keeping this in mind, like asking for help is actually paying someone a compliment.
Mm.
No one is ever going to be angry for getting a well-written email. So, and the worst thing that you can get is no one answers. So whenever you feel that you look up to someone or you want to work with someone or something else, reach out, because it's very likely that the person actually wants to give his time on a train, or likely that he or she, for that matter, wants to help out some other way, or that they just get happy for knowing what kind of positive influence they've had in your life. So it's a lot less scary to send an email to someone than it is to walk up to the beautiful woman in the bar, because that's freaking scary. Yes. And it can be pretty scary to send an email as well. But at least in my experience, it's not by comparison. And so yeah, send more emails.
And I think you can really add love to someone's life too. Like, I know when you have received some emails that are something like, the thing you did changed my life in this way. And I know how happy you become. And then you share that email in our Slack. And then the whole team gets some kind of gratitude and appreciation and good feeling that what you are doing and then what we are doing is actually making a difference out there. So there are ripple effects too.
Pay more compliments, send more emails.
Cool.
So if you want to quickly wrap up what you take from this episode.
Yes, the importance of validating people deeply by saying how what they did have changed me in the future. And if that can come from an emotional place, either in text or in life, I think that is great leadership, actually. I think what the guy who paid you a compliment for the clothes, that was great leadership by him. So I can see how that is a very useful skill. I want to think about that more. And the idea as well that just reaching out in general, if coming from the right mindset, might be a win-win-win-win-win situation. And you never know. Send 10 of them. One might answer. And then, who knows? You got a lunch, a mentor, and stuff can happen. What have you learned today?
So I'll sum up some quick things that if you're doing those in an email, you are way more likely, at least that I would reply. I can't tell for everyone else, but in my experience. And that's be specific with what this other person have done that meant something for you. And if that's nothing, if you're just asking for a job, find something. Don't send an email not giving them something specific that you appreciate. Could be about the company then. Make it short. Get emotions in there about this meant this much and did this. And ask for something small. Don't ask someone for a meeting or a lunch or a mentorship in a first email. Ask for a reply and take it from there. Think about it as meeting someone in a bar or restaurant and how to engage in the first couple of minutes. You're not going to ask for big things.
That's a very well summary. And it seems befitting now to say that if you have any feedback on this episode, if you have any more ideas, if you think we are way off or right on, please send us a well-written email. And if it's not, we will publicly shame you, maybe burn you on a stake, throw tomatoes at you. And send it to podcast@great.com. And please practice your skills. You never know what could happen. Any final words, Eric?
No, thank you for today. This was great.
This was great. All right, guys. See you next week. This was Becoming Great podcast. Take care.